Hello everyone, hello everyone, and welcome to this audio podcast. Today, looking at works in regards to an exposition on stratified receptors, the idiosyncrasy surrounding early transplant immunobiology. So today, continuing part of the intro, and as part of this audio podcast premiere. This audio podcast is part of the Serology and Squil. This audio podcast is part of the Hustle and Serotype. This audio podcast is part of a Defcon premiere, and this audio podcast is part of a Storm Logistics production. So, so uh, there in amongst literature there have been works that look at sort of the varying sort of principle and actions surrounding chemokines and chemokine receptors, and these are mediated through a family of G protein coupled receptors with seven transmembrane domains. The nomenclature used to describe these receptors is based on the class of chemokine ligands that interact with a receptor. So, for example, C, and then CC, CXC, and then CX3C receptors. Many chemokines bind to several different receptors, yet the differential expression of receptors by distinct leukocyte subsets is an important component for specificity of chemokine action. The complexity and apparent redundancy of the system is thought to provide a high sense of effectiveness and flexibility in vivo. Investigations with laboratory knockout mice or murine sort of laboratory models, especially when in laboratory murine knockout models, especially when teamed with the use in wild type murine or mice models of blocking monoclonal antibodies, and corresponding receptors had provided sort of the initial analysis as to what all the complexity of chemokine biology might mean to the highly practical in vivo world of solid organ transplantation. In research as far as the beginning of the new millennia, investigation has shown that expression of multiple chemokine receptors allow navigation by leukocytes systemically and through a variety of multiple chemokines. So different chemokine receptor pairs may be necessary for activation, transmigration, and retention accordingly. There have now been several academic laboratory investigations looking at the expression of several chemokines and chemokine receptors in amongst human solid organ transplantation that show increased expression in AAR. Several important points had emerged from some preliminary in vivo based mechanistic investigations. Firstly, targeting of a single chemokine is typically ineffective in prolonging allograft prognosis. An example of this general principle was the lack of efficacy in targeting of macrophage inflammatory protein 1 alpha whereas targeting of receptor CCR1 and CCR5 is of pharmacotherapeutic significance. That draws this audio podcast to a close. This audio podcast as part of the Serology and Squil. This audio podcast is part of a Hustle and Serotype. This audio podcast as part of a Defcon premiere. And this audio podcast is part of a Storm Logistics production.